Hey guys, it's Lance from Learn to Play Games. I'm here with Nick, one of the main developers with Aeon's End. So we're here today, we're going to take a look at the game and some of the processes of the game, how it works and functions, and we're going to get to take a look at some of the cards and different features. So Nick, tell me about the game and what exactly is Aeon's End?
So Aeon's End is a co-op fantasy deck builder.
Okay.
It's set in a world where it's a typical sort of fantasy world where there's like magic users. And then at one point, these portals started opening and giant monsters kept invading. And they basically killed off everyone. You're members of a society which is formed initially from the people that managed to find this cave city to escape these monsters, and they kind of hold off the cave so that nobody could get in.
Okay.
And then since you're mages, you're kind of messing around with energy anyway. They started messing around with the latent energy from the monsters when they came into the planet, and they opened these breaches to their other world. So they're breach mages in the game. And you use those breaches to cast spells, and you collect gems in order to gain you Aether to sort of fund. They act as your economy, sort of fund your things. And then you also use relics as sort of actions in the game.
Okay.
So there's a few things in Aeon's End that make the game different from most deck builders. It uses a turn order deck, so there's not a static turn order where player 1 goes, player 2 goes, etc. You'll never know which one is coming until the deck is near empty. Also, you have several things that you can spend your Aether on or your energy on in the game. You'll have to use you have to unlock your breaches in order to cast more spells, because they sort of are the capacity that you have to cast spells and deal damage. Also, you have an ultimate ability that you can sort of build up to. So even late in the game, you'll still have use for your economy. The other big thing as far as deck builders are concerned that's different from most of them is that you don't shuffle in this game.
Okay.
So when you get to the point where you would draw a card and you can't, you just flip your discard pile over and it becomes your deck.
Okay, interesting.
So as I described before, Aeon's End has a variable turn order deck, which is here. Its composition differs based on the amount of players in the game, but there'll always be two Nemesis turns in the 6-card deck. There'll always be 6 cards in the deck. So we have it set up for a 2-player game. So at this point, there are 2-player 1 cards, 2-player 2 cards, and 2 Nemesis cards. This is the one deck in the game you'll actually shuffle. So when it's time for a player to take a turn or for somebody to take a turn, you just reveal the card. So it says player 1, so player 1 will take their turn. In this case, Adelheim is the first player. So each player has a different starting deck that's dictated on their play mat. So Adelheim's going to start with 2 sparks, which are spells, 2 crystals, and an amethyst shard. So playing as Adelheim, we're going to play the 2 crystals, and they just gain you 1 Aether, which is the currency in the game. And amethyst shard gains you 1 Aether and allows an ally to draw a card and then discard a card. So at this point, we have 3 Aether and we have 2 sparks. So the way that the spells work in this game is you don't just get to play them and have them deal damage. You have to prep them. So none of the spells will activate or cast the turn you play them. So I'll take this spark and I'll prep it to one of my breaches. You have to prep them to your breaches in order for you to be able to cast them the next turn. So I now have 3 mana, or Aether. My options here are I could buy a card from the market, I could gain a charge, which allows me to build up to my ability, but I'm not going to be able to use that soon, so I'm not going to do that. Or I could use them to help me unlock my breaches. So there are 2 ways that you can spend Aether on your breaches. Each breach has a focus cost equal to its number. The breaches are numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I could spend 3 to focus it. Whenever you focus a breach, on that turn you can prep a spell to it, but only for that turn. So I could spend 3 and focus it. When you focus it, you turn it 90 degrees. And then I could prep a spell to it. My other option, instead of focusing, is to just outright open the breach. And each breach has an open cost at the top. And when you focus it, the cost actually gets lower. So here, it's 9 to open this, which is a whole lot. If I spent 3 to focus it, it will go down to 7. So I could spend several turns getting it to the point where now it's 5, and now it's 3, and it just says open, which means I flip it over to show that it's open, and it'll stay open the rest of the game. My second breach right now says 3 to open. So I have 3 Aether. So right now what I'm going to do is, so that I don't have to worry about messing with this later, is just spend 3 to open this. So I'll put it to the open side, and then I'll prep my second spell there. So I don't have any more Aether, and I'm done. So I'm going to discard the cards. I'm going to place the cards that I've played this turn into my discard pile in whatever order I want. And the reason the order is important is because I'm not going to shuffle when I go to draw a card. So it's not particularly important right now because I'm just going to draw, this will be my next hand, what my deck is right now, and then these will come back. So I'm going to draw them all at once anyway, but it will become more important as the game progresses and you start to acquire more cards. So I'm going to put these all in the discard pile, and then I'll be done. I'll draw back up to 5, which I knew what my starting deck was because it's dictated on my mat here. And then we'll go to the next turn. So we'll go back to the turn order deck, and we'll reveal the next turn. So now it says Nemesis. So now it's the Nemesis turn. The Nemesis turn is divided into 2 phases. He's got a main phase and then a draw phase. So the main phase is when the cards that he already has out will activate, which he doesn't have any the first turn of the game. The draw phase, he'll draw a card and play it. There are 3 different types of cards in the Nemesis deck. So there are minions. When they come into play, you set their health equal to the number here. So this minion will have 5 life. Minions then will have a persistent ability shown down here. So what that means is at the beginning of the turn during the boss's main phase, you're going to do whatever the ability says. So this minion says Unleash. So Unleash is a keyword in the game that its effect varies from case to case depending on which Nemesis you're playing. So that's an important thing to mention that I should have mentioned earlier, is the game comes with 4 different Nemesis. And there's an expansion that'll get it to 5, and if you back the Kickstarter, it'll actually get 7. But the Nemesis all act differently in several different ways. The first being the Unleash. So every Nemesis will have a little section here that says Unleash, and it'll describe the Unleash for you. They'll also have a different setup and additional rules, which will usually tie into the Unleash and the setup. So this Nemesis, his name is Rageborn. He also has an interesting backstory on the back that kind of gives you some background information on why this guy is the way he is. But at the beginning of the game, you just shuffle up these strike cards, and then you place them to the side of the deck. And then what happens, and he also gains a Fury counter at the beginning of the game. So he's Rageborn, he's going to get furious, and the premise to him is he's going to build up a bunch of Fury, and then once he gets to 4 Fury, at the end of the turn, he's going to draw one of these strike cards, and then he'll lose 3 Fury. So he's going to constantly build up, attack you, and then go back down, and then build up, attack you, and go back down. And that's just what the rules say here. The next type of card is an attack. So the attacks just happen immediately. So as soon as you draw this attack, you just resolve it top down. This one says Unleash, and Gravehold suffers 3 damage. Gravehold is the name of the city that you're defending. If Gravehold ever gets to 0 life, or you lose the game. The players, if they ever all get to 0 life, they lose the game also. If one player gets to 0 life, the Nemesis is going to unleash twice, and that player has to destroy a breach, but they get to keep playing the game. There's no player elimination. But if they all get to 0, then they lose. The last type of card is a power card. So power cards all have the keyword power and then a number, which means they come into play, and you put an amount of tokens on them, power tokens, equal to the number. So this one says power 3, so we put 3 power tokens on it. At the beginning of each boss turn, during the boss's main phase, we're going to take one off, and then once it gets to 3, its effect will resolve and it'll be discarded. Some of the powers have 2 discard effects. Let me see if I can find one. So this one has the 2 discard effect, spend 7 Aether. What that means is on a player's main phase, they can spend 7 Aether to have this discarded without it taking any effect. So there are ways for you to get around some of the power cards. So we'll finish this Nemesis turn, which was him drawing Banesire. So Banesire will come into play, and then we'll just give it 5 hit points, 5 life. So now the players have something to cast their spells at and try to get rid of it to prevent it from unleashing too many times. And then the Nemesis phase ends. Okay, so we're going to go on to the next turn after the Nemesis turn, and it's player 2. So that would be Kadir here. I didn't mention this before, but everyone plays as a unique mage, and there are 8 different mages in the retail version, and then there are expansions that'll make it up to 12. If you back the Kickstarter, you'll get 12 different mages. Kadir starts the game with 1 spark in hand, 3 crystals, and an emerald shard. And an emerald shard says that you gain 1 Aether or any player gains a life. So she has the neat ability that she can kind of help you gain a little bit of life through the course of the game. So we're going to start with Kadir by just prepping her spark to her open breach. Now she doesn't have another spell, so she doesn't really need to unlock or focus any breaches right off the bat. So we have 4 Aether, so there's not a whole lot of reason for her to build up to using her special ability now because she won't be able to use it later. And hers in particular is much better when you've bought some spells and your deck is better. So we're going to go to the market and try to spend our Aether there. So this is a market style deck builder where at the beginning of the game you can pick or you can randomly choose the amount of which cards are going to be in the game. But each game you're going to play with 3 gems, and the gems are the primary currency in the game, the economy. You're going to play with 2 relics, and the relics provide you instant actions essentially. And then you're going to play with 4 spells, and spells a lot of them give you neat abilities, and some of them, or all of them, deal damage. So to quickly go through the cards, Jade here costs 2 and it gives you 2. It's pretty basic. The Searing Ruby here costs 4. It gives you 2 and an additional 1 to buy a spell, so to help ramp you up for spells. Clouded Sapphire gives you 3, and the first time you play a Clouded Sapphire in a turn, an ally gains a charge. So you'll help to sort of slowly gain some charges for somebody so they can use their ability. The 2 relics we have here, Mage's Talisman costs 5, and it says you gain a charge and an ally gains a charge. So again, it's more free charges in order for you to kind of fire off your abilities sooner. Bottled Vortex says destroy this, which means remove it from the game, and then destroy up to 2 cards from your hand or discard pile, and then draw a card. So this will help you filter out some of the weaker cards that you start with once your deck starts to get better. Our spells, Phoenix Flame says deal 2 damage and you may lose a charge to deal 2 additional damage. So it does a decent amount of damage, and if you're getting a lot of free charges, it could do a lot of damage actually. Lava Tendrils costs 4. You can cast it for 3 damage, but it also says while prepped, deal 1 damage at the end of your casting phase. So if you decide not to cast it and just leave it in play, you'll get to deal 1 damage. So if you got a lot of room on your breaches, it gives you a nice little ability. Chaos Arc says deal 3 damage, deal 2 additional damage for each spell you have prepped in adjacent breaches. So it really starts to matter which breaches you unlock and where you prep your spells, because that spell could do up to 7 damage for 6 mana. It's very good. The Consuming Void is the last one. It costs 7. When you cast it, you destroy up to 2 cards in your hand, and you deal 3 damage for each card destroyed this way. So this again will help you filter out the weaker cards and make your deck more overall powerful. And it can deal up to 6 damage. So we got 4 Aether back to Kadir's turn. So our options really, we have several cards that we can buy. We're going to buy a Searing Ruby. When you buy something, it goes immediately to your discard pile. So again, this is where the no shuffling is important. And then you place the rest of your cards in your discard pile in whatever order you want, the cards that you played. So if this was the next turn, let's say it's Kadir's next turn, the start of her turn is her casting phase, which is when she can cast her prep spells. So now she could cast her Spark, deal a damage to the Banesire that's in play, and then she has 3 crystals and 2 sparks. She could do a similar play to what Adelheim did, because her second breach is in the same situation, and then put her crystals in. So your spells will always go to your discard pile first, because they're in a different phase. The cards you buy next, and then the cards that you play.
All right, so that was a quick look at Aeon's Ends, and I'd like to thank Nick and Action Phase Games for taking me through this. So Nick, you were saying a little bit with the Kickstarter. Can you fill me in on when people see this, if they still want it, what can they do to get it?
Well, the Kickstarter went absolutely amazingly. We made 189 grand, so we were able to unlock a ton of additional content. And what we decided to do was make the majority of that content Kickstarter promo content, where it's not necessarily exclusive, but it's not going to be in retail initially. Mm-hmm. But if you pre-order it now through our website, actionphasegames.com, if you pre-order it within the next month, so by the beginning of June, then you will get the Kickstarter promo stuff.
Okay.
So if you pre-order after that, you will get all the stuff that comes in the retail version. You'll be able to buy the additional expansion too.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. This looks like a phenomenal game. Go ahead, and we will have more up soon. So stay tuned for that, and see you guys at the table.